I'm Tom Gentry. I'm a writer. I launched my first podcast in 2019. And for over 20 years, I've helped families struggling with addiction and related issues. I'm all about helping people reconnect with themselves and connect with others. I've spoken to men and women from many walks of life with the aim of getting to the essence of who they are. Along the way, I developed a set of questions to which even their closest friends may not know the answers. This show is my take on the Proust questionnaire. In each of these conversations, another human being offers us a small glimpse into their mind. They show us their heart, and in doing so, sometimes they touch ours. This is 20 Questions. Thank you for being here. I'm Tom Gentry. This is the club for my podcast, The Path to Authenticity, which I like to think of as the opposite of small talk. Today, I have Shannon Hollis, who is an author who was a guest on the podcast back in April of 2020, episode 54. I sent out a mass email to all the guests that I've had just to invite them to do this, and Jackie was kind enough to respond and set it up, and here we are. We've been crossing paths on the app lately over the last couple weeks, and it's been really nice. So I'm happy to have you, Jackie. Thank you for coming. You ready to do this thing?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. If your life were a novel, what would be the title?
Well, as it happens, is it fair to say I mention my own book?
Of course.
That's about the closest thing that I could come to is I have a memoir called This Particular Happiness, a Childless Love Story. And that's what I'd say. But I have a thing that I say to myself to remind myself often. The weather comes in and the weather goes out. And I think that could be also a title to my life.
I like that. All right. Where were you born, Jackie?
I was born in a small town in eastern Oregon. Oregon's on the west coast. And it's a tiny little town that has about 1,000 people.
Okay.
Actually, I was grew up on a ranch outside of that town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And where's the place you call home?
Well, I call home. I actually was thinking about this. For a long time, well into my adulthood, I still considered Condon, the town that I grew up in, home. I always spoke of it as home. And particularly because the house I'd grown up in, my great-grandfather had built it. My grandfather lived there. My father grew up there. And so that just felt very much like home. And every other place I was felt like I'm here, but I haven't landed. Mm-hmm. And then my husband and I built a house here outside of Portland, Oregon. It's a little unincorporated area called Aloha, but it's Portland, basically. And we've lived here now for 27 years, I think. And about 10 years ago, there was a moment where I was standing looking out. We have a lot of trees out behind the house, and I was looking and just realized, and looking also at all the nicks and, grime in the corner kinds of things, chips in the walls that happen in the house over time. Mm-hmm. And I realized this feels like home. This is home now. Mm-hmm. And so my house here in Portland, Oregon is home.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a lot of things. A dancer. I watched a lot of dance on TV and was on the dance team, and that would have been a fun thing.
And what is your profession?
Well, that's always a funny question. I'm a writer. I've had 3 professions. I have a master's in social work, so I did counseling for a number of years. And then I did a big switch and did human resources, which at the end of the day wasn't such a big switch. And then I started writing when I was about 40. I'm 63 now. So I came to it late.
That's interesting. I would have assumed you always wrote.
No, a lot of the people in my writing community, knew they wanted to write from the time they were little kids. And it was never on my horizon. It just didn't even seem like a possibility. I was raised to be very practical. And so because I was in a small town, I was able to do a lot of things, be on the dance team, act in school plays. You could be a big fish in a small pond.
Right.
Everyone can. But writing was never a thing until around the time I turned 40, I became quite depressed about, I don't know, there were a number of things that had happened, and some of it had to do with career and work. And I began a book. Someone recommended a book. She said, I see in you this creative drive that's never been let loose. Because she said, I look at your home, I look at your garden, I look at the way you dress, I look at the way you arrange things, and I can see that you have this creative part that you've never nurtured. And it really took me. And so she suggested this book called The Artist Way by Julia Cameron, which I'm sure people, a number of people have heard from. And it's a workbook. It's just a fabulous book for helping you explore the creative and the stories you tell yourself about not being creative. And there's daily journaling, daily pages. And that just led me down a path. And eventually I wrote a book-length manuscript that was not good, and then decided I really wanted to learn the craft and began taking classes. It was so exciting. Wow. I had all these stories inside me. It was just really, it's like nothing I'd ever felt before.
That's great. Okay, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I have this idea that there's sort of all these little paths that I could have followed, and I'm kind of living each of those lives. What I have always thought would be so fun would be to be an actor. Not necessarily screen, but theater. And I did a little bit of that in high school, and I have a couple of friends here who are actors and directors in the Portland area. And I just think that is such an incredible experience. I love watching it, and I love hearing them talk about it, particularly what the rehearsal is like, how it is to find the character. But I also think that it's a younger person's sport. The hours of live theater, of rehearsal, it's really intense. And I've watched my friends sort of confront that as they've gotten older. So acting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's the one that it just hit me a few years ago. I think I could have really been good at it for some reason. And I'm the same way. I really like hearing people talk about character development and how and why they chose a script and all those sorts of things. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah. My two of my friends, Jane Geisman and Sarah Licht, do these workshops called Contacting Character, and they're acting skills for people who aren't actors. They also teach actors, but they have this workshop where they apply acting techniques to life. And so you do scene work, and you take a moment in your life that is powerful, but not so, it has to be something you can work on in this setting. And you pick a scene partner out of the group. And it's so fun to watch the process and how people really can't, because so much about acting is about being present with your scene partner and responding, not having lines, but responding to what they're giving you, which is what applies to life as well.
What's your favorite quote?
some of the questions are always so hard for me because, well, I've got about 10 of them, but I'm going to pick this one that has stayed with me over the years. And it's actually a poem called Late Fragment by Raymond Carver, who was an author that I really, really liked his writing. It was a short story writer who kind of changed how short stories were being, he was just kind of a groundbreaker in some of the modern short stories. It's Late Fragment. And did you get what you wanted in this life? Even so, I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on this earth. What I like about that is I think it's on some level a confession for me, of that desire to be cared for. And then also, in this, to be able to say, yes, I've had that.
Beautiful. Okay, so we've already talked about your preferred form of creative expression and maybe another one, but usually I ask, what is it? But I'm going to ask you, what is maybe another preferred form of creative expression besides writing?
Well, right now it's music. After my memoir came out, I was struggling a bit with writing, and decided that I'd find a way to map that over into some other kind of creativity. And so a year ago in March, I started taking music lessons with a guy, Joey Helpish of Dandelion Studios. I've never met him in person. We've done this all entirely by Zoom. And he's just this really great teacher for helping explore the creative. And so it's not just, let me show you how to learn chords or music theory, or, he is just this vast amount of information, and of helping people find their song, whatever that mode is. And so I've been working with him, and he suggested I went into it and I said, I'd like to be able to sing have two songs memorized and be able to sing them comfortably in front of other people. Because I've always had a lot of shame or embarrassment about singing. My mom told me when I was young that, she told us, all of us kids, I don't know what happened. None of my kids got my voice. And because she could sing. Well, I think we all can sing. I think most people can. And it's just a matter of confidence. So I started with Joy, and he started me on the ukulele, not even with singing at all. He said, I want you to just try this. So I started with the soprano ukulele, didn't fit me very well for a number of reasons. I went to the baritone ukulele, which is, like I think I told you earlier, more like it's a 4-string guitar, deeper sound. Really love the sound of it. And I've learned, I'm not great by any means, but I like playing it. And I've written a couple of songs, and gradually doing some singing. He has these sort of sneaky ways of moving into the singing process. So I've been singing a little bit, and it just led me down a whole path I didn't expect to go of, writing verse, and having this little instrument that I can play a bit.
I was going to ask, do you find that it feeds you creatively in terms of your writing to engage in another creative pursuit?
Yes. I've still been struggling with writing. And it's so interesting. I really, for 20 years, I was on this path of writing and publishing short stories. I have a novel that I'm working on, and then my memoir. And once it was published, some of the fire went out of me. And this is sometimes it makes me feel like, I'm not a real writer because I'm not, getting my butt in the chair every day. But I have learned to trust that there are times where I am creative in that medium and times where I'm not. This has just been a lot longer period of time. I've continued with my writing group. I've helped people edit some of their manuscripts. And I think what it does, I think there's always some part of me that needs to come out creatively. And it may be that the music has taken the place of it. I don't know. I think the best answer to that, Tom, is I'm not sure yet.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, boy, that's really hard. It's one of those things. If someone says some movies, I'm like, oh yeah, that one. I'm going to pick just because I don't watch movies much, rewatch them, but I've watched Best in Show probably 4 times. Just laughed so much every time.
Yeah.
Do you know that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Have you watched Schitt's Creek?
Yes. In fact, what was crazy about that is I had not watched it when it was out. And so this was another thing during the pandemic. My husband and we had watched one episode when it came out. And we said, that's not for us. I don't know, it was too goofy or something. And then we went back to it, like, what was the matter with us that we did not love this? And so we got to watch all of the seasons. It was incredible.
Yeah, I imagine if you give it time for the characters to develop a little bit, that really makes a difference.
Circling back to acting, is that they just looked like they were having such a great time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can never really remember any of their names, but is it Catherine O'Hara? She is just hilarious with the outfits and the attitude and all that. But all of them, really.
Yeah. I mean, talk about commitment to a role. Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and that idea of commitment too. And this is something I was thinking about when you were talking about, maybe like the acting was something that you think you would have enjoyed, that it has to do, some of it also has to do with that level of commitment, which is the thing I think that you have been doing with all of these conversations, the podcast, the work that you're doing on Clubhouse. I think that's, you've made a commitment.
Yeah, I definitely, I didn't want to start the podcast until I could feel committed to it. And the commitment has been to do an episode a week. And I've done that, Yeah. I traveled last weekend. I usually do them on Saturdays. So I crammed it in, last week before I left. So I didn't have to worry about it. And the thing is with that, once I got into a routine, it's not really that much work. I've just kind of made it part of my lifestyle, and it's not as big a deal anymore. Now, the promotion of it, I could do 24/7 and it'd still not be enough. But, it's, I think also over time, it takes time to build it. It just takes time. I had a conversation with a woman yesterday who found the podcast, listened to the podcast, tracked me down, needed help with her son. And it was the first time that I had someone who I didn't know who reached out to me personally as a result of just finding the podcast by happenstance and enjoying it. And that felt really good,
Wow. Yeah. That's super rewarding, that those moments when someone you don't know and you haven't done that reaching out. When my book was published, that was so thrilling to get notes from readers.
Yeah. Well, and to have people send me their books was just, I never expected that, I guess I hoped. That seemed like something at some point, that would be great. But, just to have people out of the blue, I've had a few publicists reach out to me asking if I'd have their clients on. And it's just been really interesting. It has. But back to you. Okay. What's your favorite song, Jackie?
Well, this is similar to the quotes. It's so hard to nail down because it really is so much about a time in my life. And I have 1,000 favorite songs, but I was thinking about, a song from a time in my life. Do you know the song Heaven, Talking Heads?
I don't think I do know that.
Well, I really, really hooked into this song right around the time my father died. And he, at that time in my life, this was in 2004, and it was just this really peak time in my life. I was writing. I discovered writing was really, really in the flow of it, and had several groups of friends where we had these really deep connections. And I don't know, there were just a whole bunch of things going on at that time. And I can remember thinking, this is exactly how sort of the life that I fantasized about, my relationship, my marriage. I had a happy marriage. I love this time. I love this time in my life. So when Dad died, I really realized things are going to change. And the song is about, it says there's a bar in heaven and everyone is there, or there's a party, everyone is there, or it's a kiss, but it's about, this is going to be, I want this to end and then I want it to start all over again. When the party's over, everyone will leave at exactly the same time. And the heartache of my father dying was this awareness of people are going to start going away. Mm-hmm. And I just really kind of wanted to hold on to that, to things as they were. This song sort of reflected that in the reality that it's, that's not the way it's going to happen.
It's amazing to me, the power of imagery like that, in verse, in songs, and writing. Do you know the Robert Frost poem Birches?
Yes.
That's one of my favorites,
Mm-hmm.
which comes to mind. And then there's a song I want you to check out called If We Were Vampires.
Oh.
It's by a guy named Jason Isbell.
Oh my God, I love him.
Oh yeah, then you might even know the song.
Cover Me Up, but I don't know that song.
It's a newer one. It's from not his most recent record, but the one before. It's as well written as Cover Me Up.
Okay.
And when I say that, as a writer, I'm sure you were taught, and what I was taught is that love is the most written about topic ever, obviously, which makes it the most difficult topic to write about because it's really hard to find an original approach, right? And both of those songs, I think, Cover Me Up is just a beautiful expression of love and the approach to it and in his writing. But also, If We Were Vampires, you'll understand why I suggested it to you when you...
good. Oh, look.
Because if you're a vampire, your whole relationship with time is completely different, right? Mm-hmm. That's really what it's about. Okay. Do you have a favorite work of art?
I don't have a favorite work of art. I have a piece of art hanging in my house that a good friend of mine painted. She's an artist, also late in life. That is a story. Actually, I've written about her in my memoir, but it's about sort of the story of the breakup of our friendship and then reuniting 17 years later, which is something people don't actually talk a lot about, is friendships breaking up. Um, and so I have that. And then there's an artist that I am so fascinated by. I know him. He's a guy here in Portland, Stephen O'Donnell, not to be confused with the soccer player. I think there's a Stephen O'Donnell. But his art is, he's self-taught. His paintings are super intricate. They're animals and people, and they're gender blending. They're just incredible. And he has a book called The Untold Gaze, which is a number of writers wrote short stories to the prompt of his paintings. And I'm just fascinated by his work and how they almost look like photographs, except for what the imagery is. Some of it's from certain time periods. Really incredible.
Who do you admire most?
That's really hard. I admire people, so many different people for lots of reasons. And I admire my husband a lot. He when I met him, I was really amazed by his ability to track his own internal process, and share it, and his commitment to just really knowing himself. So I admire him. I don't know if it's the most, but he's the person I admire as much as I do a lot of other people.
Yeah, I was the best man in a wedding over the weekend. That's why I was in Nashville and had to do the toast and all that. And one of the things I talked about is, it's really palpable when you meet one of those couples that you just know it's a whole other level of love. Because, there's so much cynicism around marriage and romantic partnership. But every now and then you meet a couple that they revere each other. And that's what this couple is like. And that's what I hear when you say that about your husband. It's honoring a person in a way, So I'm happy for you that you have that. Yeah. Now, I think I know what the answer to this question might be, but maybe not. Over the course of your life, what is an issue with which you have repeatedly struggled?
Well, I'm guessing that you're thinking about the fact of my being childless. That is something that I struggled with. I would say less now than ever before. The story turned out okay, but for a long time I wasn't sure if it would. And because I was childless by marriage, having married someone who didn't want to have children, I was afraid that I would end up resenting Bill, or regretting my decision, and to be with him, to choose, being with him, or I'd end up with a kid in a really shitty circumstance. So yes, that's that. I definitely struggled with that, and even now there are times I was just looking at something on Facebook, and someone said having grandchildren is the best, and I just thought, well, compared to what? Right. What are we comparing this to? Yeah, right. I know it's a great experience, and I know that I watch my sisters, but there's something in that statement that is so exclusive of every other experience. And I think that it's just a thing people say. They don't say it to be hurtful. As people I just think often people with children, because that's so much has been in the past, so much the norm, that they forget that that's not how it is for everyone.
Right. Well, and one of the things that's sort of been a theme in my life in the last year is just challenging these norms, right? There are so many people are parents who probably shouldn't be parents, but it's just what we do. And it's refreshing to me to know someone who takes it very, very seriously. Because it's a big deal. There's no more important role to have in another human being's life. And I think especially being someone who works in the helping profession like you have, I mean, it becomes pretty formulaic when you see if someone's operating in dysfunction that they're going to pass it down to their kids. So just the very fact that you're willing to not be cavalier about that decision and really give it thought is, to me, speaks volumes of your character. But we tend to, as a culture, think of things, this is just what life is and how we do it. And you become parents and then you become grandparents.
No, I mean, I think that you're heading down the same path. I think it is this expectation that for so long, most people just didn't think about it. I think there's a very strong child-free community that is speaking about it now. And it's also it's harder to have children now because of financially it's really difficult. But for me, it was, I was headed down that path in my first marriage. I was going to get pregnant, have a baby, and that's just what you did. And when things changed and I divorced and I kind of went through this, beginning to question it, like, why am I doing that? It was such a stunning moment to realize I was going to do this major thing, bring another life into the world, and not having really thought it through at all. And I that's one of the things, having come out of having people who did have children read my book, that they just said, I didn't really think about it. They said, I'm glad my child is here. I love my child. I'm having a great experience. And I feel sort of silly that I never really thought about that it was a choice.
Yeah. I kind of did that with marriage.
Yeah.
Just did it because I thought it was what I was supposed to do. And I thought, here's someone who won't leave. And, I think being a parent isn't a substitute for fulfillment. But a lot of people treat it as such. And I think that's not fair to the kids. It puts a lot of pressure on kids, and it's sort of this unspoken thing. And I think that's why you have so many parents who project onto their kids about what they're going to be like. And it's that's, to me, it's being a dad is about, just nurturing him and letting him be who he is. Right. But a lot of people don't think that way. A lot of parents get married because they need love. And that's how they choose to do it. Not to mention the couples that keep having kids because they think it'll keep them together or whatever. I mean, there's, lots of reasons not to do it, I think.
Yeah, or to just really, I think it's that process of exploring, our own selves, deeply enough to go into parenting in a real conscious way, and to be able to intervene on our own selves when we're making a misstep. I have lots of nieces and nephews, 45 of them if I count the nieces and nephews and in-law nieces and nephews and greats and great-greats now. And it's amazing to watch the process, the parenting process. I have, some real admiration for some of the ways that some of the young people have been doing their parenting. I had a moment one of my nieces, I got to, I picked up my great nephew from school up until COVID happened every Tuesday, and we would hang out. And it was sort of our time. And I watched my niece one time. Her little boy got upset, and she came home because he really liked his time with me. And she and I were talking, and Santi and I had been playing a game, and he got really upset because I had stopped playing. Well, he got upset and just sort of pushed all the toys off, the whole game off onto the floor. And my niece and I both stopped and kind of looked at each other, and she just immediately went to him and said, "Oh, she just really acknowledged his feelings in that moment. You were really feeling ignored right then, weren't you? And, I took over your time." And just the way she saw his process and acknowledged it rather than making him wrong for trashing the game was so powerful. And I just thought that's parenting right there.
Yeah. Validation, One of I can never remember the name of the guy, but he wrote a book called The Velvet Rage. He's a physician who treats trauma. And one of the things he talks about is how just invalidation in childhood is a traumatic experience. Your feelings being disregarded and devalued. It distorts your own image of yourself, Yeah. Okay. Man, I love talking to you. We could just go on. Better get back to these questions, though. In childhood, who was your celebrity crush?
I never was a kid who was crazy for any of the boy bands or any of that, but I loved Carol Burnett.
Okay.
She was so funny. And the show that she had, that definitely dates me, but she and Harvey Korman and Tim Conway would do these bits, and they would get the giggles in the middle of it.
Right.
And it was just so fun to see these adults having fun doing this stuff. And anyway, she was wonderful. So I would say I had a crush on her.
Oh. Yeah, I grew up watching reruns of that with my parents and siblings, and just extraordinarily funny. Makes me want to go back and find them. Eunice,
yes.
And there was a spinoff, Mama's Family, if you remember.
Oh yeah, I never watched that.
Yeah, there's no way it could have competed with, the bits on the Carol Burnett show. But yeah, that was brilliant. What historical figure would you most like to meet?
This is a hard one. I'm fascinated by people who become really famous or even more so after their death. And Virginia Woolf, who was known, but my gosh, the impact she still has today is in the literary world, in the world, I think of women. I'd be interested in hearing what she has to say about that.
What natural gift or ability would you most like to possess?
A sense of humor. And it's not that I get it. I love to laugh. I'm playful. There's all of that, but there's a particular kind of humor that I admire in people so much. And it's the ability to take a moment and sort of make fun of it, make fun of themselves, laugh at themselves. This is one of the things that I admire also about my husband, is that he's willing to be the butt of a joke. So I think a sense of humor, especially when it comes to myself. I'm learning, I'm getting better.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Well, I hate to keep talking about my husband, but my relationship. I've worked my ass off on this. It's not. We've been together for 30 for 35 years almost. And, there were ups and downs as there are in any relationship. And we went into it knowing that we'd had enough experience with other relationships and our own sort of study, that we knew we would have struggles, power struggles. And so it was just really learning how to meet those. And so I feel really incredibly proud that we have stayed with that, and really, really enjoy being with each other.
What quality do you admire most in a person?
I'm going to go back to a sense of humor and authenticity. That's what I love the title of your show, the path to authenticity, because it really, one is, I do think it's a path. And when people are themselves and can acknowledge in a given moment what's happening for them, I really, really appreciate that.
What's something you'd like to learn about?
I'm interested in continuing to learn music. And both with music and with writing, there's a continual process. There are some craft skills in writing that have to do with how to go more deeply interior with a character. There's skills that I'm just find fascinating and want to keep learning.
Have you played with another person yet?
No. I'm not good enough, I think, to really play with another person.
Well, that definitely is it. It makes it all expand. And I am not much of a guitarist. I took lessons for a while, and I have a couple guitars, but I got to a point where I could at least play rhythm guitar, 12-bar blues with a lead guitarist. And to do that, to play in unison, it's a spiritual experience. It is. It's to the groove, to find the groove. It's really cool.
I would love to be able to do that. So there I go.
Well, you'll get there. You'll get there. What do you wish more people knew about you?
I feel like I'm a pretty open book, so there's not much that's hidden, except I know that I still hide. And this has more to do with, it has to do with me not sharing it in a moment. I'm not very good when I get my feelings hurt to at saying that's what's happening. And I think maybe people, I guess I wish that people knew that I do get my feelings hurt. And because I think that I'm pretty good at shaking things off. And mostly I think that, we're so much a projection of what other people see versus necessarily what's inside us. That it's just, I guess this is a little bit of a hard question for me to be very articulate about.
Yeah. So would you say you shut down when your feelings get hurt? Yes.
I do. And, it's such a childhood thing. I had, 3 siblings that were older than me. And I remember being teased by them and feeling so powerless, in those moments. And so I just know it's a very old feeling, and that I become very unresourceful in those moments. And I kind of go back to that, that, kind of freezing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten better over the years at recognizing when those things happen. Mm-hmm. And also recognizing that it's not about the present. Mm-hmm. It's not always about the present. Sometimes it's about something else. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a line from one of the lessons in A Course in Miracles is, I'm not upset about what I think I'm never upset about what I think I'm upset about. You know, it's almost always something else. It's almost always something in the past that we're projecting onto the present, you know?
Yeah.
What is your idea of success?
Continuing to learn and, just, keep learning. As long as I am, whether it's a skill or information, learning something new about myself, I will feel like I've lived a successful life. If I continue to do that. My mom was like that. She was always learning something. And speaking of admiration, I just admired that so much about her. And she taught me that as a possibility, that no matter how old you got, you could keep learning.
Well, it makes our lives bigger, you know? Mm-hmm. To me, it does. I'm a history guy, and there are lots of things that I like to keep learning about. And the idea of not doing that anymore, I can't even fathom it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't either. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, last question, Jackie. What would you like people to say about you when you're gone?
I would like them to say they felt safe and seen by me and had fun around me.
Oh, I love that. So, what do you think about this? Have you enjoyed it?
Yes, I have. I one of the things that my music teacher said recently, he's had me doing just a little bit of just talking on mic, and he said, you ought to interview yourself. And I said, well, I've already got that taken care of. I've got 20 question interview coming up here soon. But I really enjoyed it. I really love talking with you too, Tom. I think, and I've just enjoyed listening to your conversations with other people. I mean, you are curious about people, and you are also honest about yourself. And so it's great.
Thanks for listening to the show. Please take the time to subscribe at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Check out the latest episode of The Path to Authenticity at thepathtooauthenticity.com. You can also find the podcast club on Clubhouse, or you can join the podcast community for access to supplemental content at patreon.com/thepathtooauthenticity.